Hey, how y'all doing out there? How y'all doing out there? You know what? Oftentimes when I step on the stage, I am extremely nervous. So I start off with something that's going to kind of help settle me down, but it's going to take you to a place too. So follow after me. If you're happy and you know it. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. I'm looking at you. I'm watching you. I see you. One of the biggest things that I do as a speaker for women's empowerment is that I encourage women to show up as themselves. It's so important that you don't become some fake knockoff of what the world has to offer, but you show up authentically as you. Because what you have to offer, no one has what you have. I discovered a long time ago on my journey, growing up in Yazoo City, Mississippi, it was a very hard trial for a young girl transitioning to Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. How on earth did I make that type of transition? I'll tell you, I come from somewhere. I woke up in a place where when you rise, it smells like buttermilk biscuits and fried okra, to a place where nothing survives the cold, and you better have on 16 layers when you step outside. My mother endured tons of abuse from my own father. I watched as he daily ripped her apart. I did not have a voice in the home that would tell me as a little girl that it was okay, that you had value, that you were awesome. I had no positive vibe around me. Every day I went to sleep hearing arguing, fighting, yelling, and nothing but negative energy and negative terms spoken over my mother. And what it did is it convinced me, as an adult today, it had convinced me of what I believed I was. Because if he spoke it over my mother, that must be true about me too. I want to encourage even parents that are out there. Ladies out there, if you are parents and you have children, they watch what you do. They watch what you say. They not only watch and see what you do and say, they absorb. They take it all in. And then they identify. They characterize themselves based off of what you told them. They believe what you say about them. And because I didn't have a fluid example of exactly who I am in the world, I chose to place my own meaning based off of my circumstance, based off of my surroundings. The dysfunctionality of my household caused me to believe I was worthless. I had nothing to live for. So when I found at the age of 13, I was going through my own mental attacks, my own emotional issues, and I started to think that there was no way out. There was no reason to live, no reason to go on. And what did I do? I attempted to commit suicide at the age of 13. It was in that time where I was placed in an adult care facility at the age of 13 that I actually got a chance to see adults that are really mentally challenged, to sit in that space and absorb that as a 13-year-old. All I knew is I didn't want to be like that. Now, what could I do for myself in that moment? I could challenge the vision. I could challenge what I was seeing. I could challenge what I was thinking about myself. But I didn't have a go-to. I didn't have a go-to. I had student counselors. I had a principal that I looked up to in school that knew my background, knew where we came from, knew that we were on welfare, knew we didn't have much, and knew I was underneath a mother who was a single mom who didn't have anything to offer either. So I started to reach for what I thought was the best path for me, and that was to get help outside of me, because the answers in my head were no longer working. It wasn't working to the point that it was going to end my life. So I had to find some way to fight through. If for not anybody else, I needed to fight through for me. I needed to understand that I had value. But how? How do you find the answers when you don't have anyone around you to tell you who you are? If you don't have that source at home, how do you break free from that? How do you break through what everyone else is saying about you? Well, I took a leap. I took a leap. Inside of that counseling session, in that mental institution, I was given a counselor who not only loved God, but loved me at first sight. Begin to tell me all the things that God saw about me that were relevant, that were true. And I didn't have to believe the lies anymore. I could show up and be the very best version of myself, and guess what? The world would automatically have to accept what I have to offer. It's when you don't accept who you are that the world does not validate you. The world doesn't validate you because you haven't validated you. So you can't put the homework off on the world to figure you out. You have to take charge of that. And even at a young age, I learned that I was good just being true to myself. You hear it all the time. People talk about authenticity back and forth all the time. You hear people say the word. There was a time where I didn't even know how to say the word. What is authenticity anyways? I didn't know how to say the word. However, I learned by finding the leaders in that space, finding those that knew what they were talking about, like the author and research author, Brene Brown, who states that we have to cultivate the courage to be imperfect. Cultivate the courage to be imperfect. So in other words, I got to figure out what it takes for me to be just me. And if that means I'm not perfect, that's okay. It's okay. It's all about your viewpoint and how you see yourself. So if you're going to choose authenticity, if you're going to choose to show up in a space and be yourself, then the first thing I'm going to need you to do is do just that. Be you. And be unapologetic about it. Stop apologizing for being who you are. The next thing I'm going to ask you to do is to be kind. Be kind to those around you because you don't know what other people are going through, and you dang sure don't know what type of mountain they had to climb to get to where they are. Stop judging. Be transparent. Be transparent. Be open about the places that you fall short. Own them, and then grow from them. Because that's how you advance. That's how you level up. That's how you become better. Not focusing on everything else or anybody else, but keep it right here. Keep it right here. You need to show up as the best version of yourself, and the way to do that is to go on and find the courage. Find the courage to stop being a knockoff brand. Find the courage to stop being Uchi and be Gucci for real. Start and find the courage to not be something that you were never created to be. Your life glorifies God when you show up as you. And I stand here grateful to God that he allows me to be Arletta authentically. Grateful that he creates spaces for me to show up in where I can be impactful, where I can touch other women's lives, and I can be an encouragement to you. Because I walked through hell with gasoline underwear on, and God saw fit to see me live again. And I cannot be more grateful. So every time I show up intentionally. Because you deserve it, and you definitely deserve to know that you're worth it. I want to thank you all for this time that you've allowed me to be up here. And I'm just encouraged by this moment. Thank you so much.